Hello, everyone, and thank you for watching Casually Hardcore. I am your host, Ryan Nico, a boxing ring announcer who is in love with the sport. I desire to understand it from the inside out, from the bottom to the top. And today, our guest is a representative of USA Boxing, which is the governing body of Olympic style amateur boxing right here in the United States. Now, to really bring home how cool that is, I think about the Olympic Summer Games. And I bet it's safe to say a majority of you watching right now cheer for the red, the white, and the blue. And every 4 years, those athletes who compete for a gold medal for our nation got there by participating in an organization called the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee. And USA Boxing is the organization that supports the boxers who compete for the USA. That being said, today, the very awesome Events and Boxing Operations Manager for USA Boxing is here to talk about the organization, to talk to us about the past tournament that we witnessed in Lubbock, Texas in 2022 in December, and also the upcoming year for USA Boxing. And he's even going to touch on the looming rumblings that is being discussed right now, dealing with the potential future demise of boxing in the Olympic Games. So, ladies and gentlemen, Michael Campbell.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Ryan, for doing this, for doing what you do, what you're contributing to boxing. I'll speak for everyone. Love your passion. Love how you've taken to this sport. Love the job you do at nationals with us. It adds, we were sitting there in Lubbock talking about it with you and Jeremiah. I was like, we have the best announcing team in boxing. Nobody does it this great. We really, we really had the premier voices of boxing there with us, and it makes the event so special. You and Jeremiah really put an emphasis on honoring the athlete and the work that they do. And really, that's what our objective is at the national championships is, every night in America at 5 o'clock, every night in every gym in America, a coach is toiling away, volunteering his hours. Boxers are sweating, parents are sacrificing just for that one moment when that bell rings, when they can display those talents in the ring. And so, the things we do there to set the stage, to make it bigger, you say bigger the stage, the better they perform. And you guys add a really important element to that. So thank you for what you do and for honoring the boxers and carrying it out in between tournaments and enriching and enlivening and really putting a greater emphasis on the sport and its athletes.
Well, thank you for the acknowledgement. Shout out to Jeremiah Gallegos, which is like a super powerhouse of a voice. So thank you so much for that, Mike Campbell. And okay, so let's dive into it. Let's help
Yep.
people understand, how much insight you have. You are the USA Boxing
Sure.
Events and Boxing Operations Manager. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I'm lucky. I'm privileged. It's an honor every day to wake up and to be able to drive up to the USA Boxing offices, and as you mentioned, the USOPC headquarters, and to be a part of the Olympic movement, and to be able to take what the work I was doing in Gulf LBC as a volunteer and be able to carry that nationally. I like to say I have the best job in the world. I don't work at all. Do what you love, and you never work a day. I'm privileged. I'm lucky to be able to serve the members of USA Boxing and put on the biggest events in the world, the biggest amateur boxing events in the world. So I love it. I'm very lucky. So my background is in 2011. I became a member of USA Boxing in Houston in the Gulf LBC. I was on their board of directors, and I worked as an official. I had various positions on the board of directors, and during that time, I started to volunteer at the national tournaments, mostly at tournament administration, and also RJing a bit. And I've carried that forward. I took it from a volunteer position to a tournament director position, and then Mike McAtee hired me as the events manager. So in that role, I place all the national events. I take them through execution. We plan for staffing, for logistics, for all the contractors that we need to put on the event, and then carry it through with that relationship with the local city and the Visitors Bureau, and make sure that it's a winning situation for everyone involved, including the LOC, the local organizing committee, the LBC, and we can talk a little bit about the community contribution and ways we've tried to benefit those local chapters as well. So I've privileged to have worked the last 21 national tournaments in the capacity of events manager or tournament director.
Wow, 21.
And yeah, yeah, they flew right by. And every single one is amazing and tumultuous and a great, great, incredible experience.
So, okay, that's first off, 21 is a lot. And I want people to really understand the magnitude of these events. So, the last major event that just occurred was December 3rd through the 10th in Lubbock, Texas. Can you tell us how many boxers were in that tournament?
Yeah. So that was our USA Boxing National Championships. It's a very important tournament in that it decides what boxers will advance to the high performance program in at the Olympic Training Center to be part of the part of the selection team that will compete in internationally in 2023 calendar year in the elite junior and youth divisions. So that was a huge tournament as far as stakes goes. What was on the line? Um, we had 850 matches in that tournament. And to put that in perspective, we had about 575 in Cleveland and about 775 in Wichita. So that was the Junior Olympics, and in Cleveland was the national qualifier. So 850 it was even bigger than those, and it pretty much is as many bouts as we can do. We did manage to do 1,000 last year at one of the tournaments, which was unbelievable. But you only have so many hours in the day and only so many rings to put bouts in. So 850 was huge. We had close to 1,000 boxers, 950 coaches, and about 125, 130 referees, judges, and staff that in order to put together the event. So all in all, about 2,500 total participants. Sold about 2,000 tickets to the public, and it was a heck of an event.
Yes, it was. It definitely was. But just so hopefully people can understand that 21 similar events is really, really quite a feat to put together. So it's an amazing job that you do. And
Thank
you
you.
see people from all over the nation, people that are as passionate as us about boxing, if not more, that come to these tournaments from all over the nation. Can
My first, let me share this. My first national tournament, I was shocked. I was amazed because here I was team manager. I brought a team from Houston up for that national tournament, and we knew what we did in Houston. We had a good group of boxers, and we had a good group of gyms, and we would go up there, and I was like, holy cow! There's 50 or 60 of these groups all over the country bringing boxers to nationals, and that's what nationals represents. So what it does is it brings you from the grassroots to meet your brothers and sisters from all over the country that are sharing that passion, that are doing that same thing, that are sweating and toiling every night in the gym, that have that dream to win a nationals, to then carry on, be at the Olympic Training Center, be in the Olympics, be a professional boxer one day. So yeah, it was amazing to see that and to share that, and that's what's the beautiful thing. They come from all 50 states to every tournament, and to see that be the culmination of their work, the outlet. So for me, it's a privilege to be able to provide that outlet for them and to display their talent, display what they've been working on, what they do every night. And without that outlet, the coaches wouldn't be able to do that. They wouldn't be able to keep the kids in the gym. They wouldn't be able to have that incentive. They wouldn't be able to have that display to their family, friends, and sponsors and cities about what they're doing and the work they're doing in saving youth and keeping at-risk youth off the streets. So to me, it's an incredible privilege. But when you said that about where we come from all over, that's really what national represents. It's that cream on top of the grassroots that they get to display and get to the top.
Got it. I was going to ask you exactly. I was going to ask that. Why is it important? But you really just explained, like, I mean, people pour into boxing. They pour their lives into this.
Yeah,
And really the national tournaments are like the culmination of all that hard work being put together, which, I mean, I know it's been it's always a busy year. Can you at least talk to us about what is coming up for the year? So because there's different times throughout the year. There's not
yeah,
just nationals where people can pour into or show their progress throughout the year.
yeah.
Uh, National qualifiers is coming up in March. We got some things in July. So can you give us like a what's to come this year? And do you encourage new people to come to these tournaments, new boxers to showcase their work?
Yeah. Building on what we just talked about, the boxers clearly progress and get better every match at nationals. That's a higher level of competition for them. But it's not just a training ground or an improvement or a display of the talent for the boxers. It's also where coaches get better. Coaches go home better than they were when they arrived. And what I'm most proud of is the job that the RJs and the staff have done over the past 21 national tournaments in growing
You
the
mean like
RJs, the referees and judges, the volunteer officials who work in the bouts, and the RJs. But that doesn't it includes not just the referees and judges, but your timekeepers, your clerks, your the doctors who volunteer, the ring captains, and the tournament supervisor. And most important position is the equipment manager and the people who volunteer at the giving out checking uniforms, giving out gloves and headgear to the boxers to prepare them. Because safety equipment obviously is the most important, one of the most important parts of our process. But everybody gets better at national tournament. So it serves as sort of our training seminars as well, where people come there and they go home better, and then they get better at their LBC, and they raise the level there. A level one official that comes to a national tournament goes home with more knowledge just from sitting in on meetings and observing and getting critiqued. And when they do that, then that spreads to their other officials in their home LBC, which then raises the whole level of talent. And then you get better results in local shows. So I'm most proud of how national tournaments, being the size they are, has given us a platform for that training. So you talked a little bit about 2023, and oh my God, this is going to be such an exciting year. We in the NGB world, the national governing body world, we talk in terms of a quad cycle. Everything, our budgets, our plans, is always a 4-year plan, right, leading up to the Olympics. Of course, Tokyo happening in 2021 instead of 2020, and COVID really kind of messed up the whole cycle.
right?
So 2019, 2018 was an incredible year. 2019 was the biggest year of USA boxing ever, and of course, then we digressed. We regressed in 2020 during COVID. We are not back to 2019 levels yet, but I think 2023 will be. And again, you see how that's year 3 playing into the cycle, and that's the normal. That's the normal pattern. Is the Olympics are the goal, the culmination, and that's why what we're going to talk about today is so important about preserving our spot in the Olympics and keeping that goal for the coaches and boxers who train every day and compete at nationals. But the year before the Olympics is usually our Olympic trials year. So this year will be qualifications for the Olympic trials. Our high performance elite team will have opportunities to compete at the Pan Am Games, Continental Qualifiers, to earn spots in the Olympics. So this year, starting in Lubbock, really is the most important year of the cycle of the quad. So as such, our membership numbers usually surge on the 3rd year, the Olympic trials year. It's when we have the most events. And then what happens after the Olympic trials and the team is decided, a lot of older boxers will decide to move on. They graduate and move on to the professional ranks. So then we'll have a reset of talent. So that's why it's so important at the national championship to make sure that the intermediates and the juniors and the youth are well taken care of and have opportunities to compete, because they're the ones who are witnessing the cycle and are going to be the reload, the recharge. So 2023, we're headed to Detroit in March for the national qualifier.
Yep.
So excited. Day one, I got to the national office back in 2017, and I said, how come we don't go to cities like Philadelphia and Detroit, fighting towns, Las Vegas? These are boxing cities.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we belong. And so it'd been my goal to push those. And fortunately,
what is the answer to that? What is the, why is it usually in, I guess, less metropolitan areas?
Yeah. So in order to land a national event into a city, it takes the right fit, and it takes the culmination of a lot of efforts and a lot of courting from the city, a lot of incentives, and then it's what we bring to the table. And we have to make a decision that's best for the organization, for our budget for the event, but most importantly, for the budgets of our members who are traveling to the event. We estimate that every boxer costs their coach about $1,200 to bring to a national tournament. Some of them up to $1,500 per boxer, depending on the size of the group and what level of accommodations and where they came from, of course, and what the city is we're going to. But so we keep that in mind constantly when we place these events. So our events from 2015 to now look a lot different. The numbers, the stats we cited earlier, the 1,000 boxers, 850 matches, brings quite an impact to a city, an economic impact. And as such, we can leverage that when we go somewhere. So that ends up being a huge determining factor. Our biggest sponsor for national events is the city itself, and the incentives they provide for us. Usually, we're looking for a facility that we don't have to pay for, that we get free rent, and then some other incentives, things like parking and other things, such as the community contribution. And each event is unique in that regard, where we work with the city. So to land an event, let's take the Detroit example. We go to a lot of reverse trade shows where we're event planners, and a lot of event hosts or cities, facilities, hotels, visitors bureaus go to these, and they meet with us and ask us about what our upcoming events are, and we look for an event that might fit. Well, when we met the Detroit Sports Commission, the stars aligned. I like to say that I need you to want us as much as we want you in order to bring us there. I don't want to be a customer when we go to an event, to a city. I want to be a partner. I want to enlighten the community on what amateur boxing is, what difference it makes to the community there. I want them to very much see the benefit of having us and having our event. Most of all, I want boxing to be healthier when we left than when we got there. I don't want to go there and use up the resources and then leave. I want to go there and have a great community contribution. Like, for instance, in Lubbock, we had the city itself purchase a brand new boxing ring for the event, and then we donated to the LBC to keep and to use for fundraisers and rentals and things like that, so they can raise money and send more kids to national.
That's awesome.
And do more stipend. So ideas like that use really propel an event forward. So in this case, I think the stars aligned. I think Detroit needed us. They're in a huge rebuilding of their image, of their infrastructure, of their downtown areas. And come on, we're going to be boxing feet away from the Joe Louis statue, the
Exactly.
bigger than life Joe Louis statue, right in front of Hall B in the Huntington Place.
It makes me really proud to hear that. Detroit has always been a rich boxing city, and to hear that throughout this, I can see it every day, throughout the change and the innovation that's going on in Detroit, boxing is still considered something important to us. So that's lovely to hear.
So I'm so proud and we need to go to areas for more diversity of the country, so we can reward the boxers that come from those areas, so they're not always traveling 1,000 miles across the country. And so I was really happy to get into that area because we're going to Toledo later this year. We know that the Detroit Toledo boxing connection is super strong. We know, what do we always say? Ohio runs boxing, right? And they produce so many champs at every national tournament. They come out in full force with big squads,
Yeah.
14 to 20 boxers come into one tournament at a time. So I really had a huge desire to get into that area. We were in Columbus in 2018, and then we got back to Cleveland this year. So it's really great to be in that part of the country. And we've been looking at a lot of cities in that area that didn't quite work out. We're looking at Milwaukee potentially for the future. So strong boxing areas. We do need to get a little bit away from Texas, and where there's a lot of boxers there. And we can't really get to the coasts because it's not rewarding our people who have to travel too far. So I was glad to get that variety in there and get to a major city. As such, you talked a little bit about smaller towns, like when we're in Shreveport or Lubbock.
Right.
We're the only show in town. Everybody knows we're there, and it's a little bit easier to get around. You usually have free parking and things like that. So when we go to a city like Cleveland or Detroit, our members, the participants, going to have to realize, things like parking is going to be a premium. Getting around, hotels will be more expensive. But these are the things that come along with having an increase in culture and that benefit of being in a great boxing town.
Heard. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And it's just an exciting thing. It's all of Q1. People get to showcase what's going down for the rest of the year. So y'all, please tune in. March 18th is the national.
18th the check-in. 18th the check-in, and we'll compete the 20th through the 25th.
Got it. And then if you are watching, I'm going to try to get this out as early as possible. Registration cutoff dates. Do you know that offhand?
So it's going to be in early March. I think it's the first couple of days of March is the registration cutoff. Okay. And that will also be the end of coaches registration, because after that, it's a coaches late fee.
Got it.
So we need to make sure the coaches get in before March. Yes.
Get in before March. We got some time, y'all. So please get your applications in and for the USA Boxing National Qualifiers. Now, if a boxer hasn't ever competed in a USA Boxing National tournament before, Is that frowned upon? How do you all feel? Like, do you accept new boxers? What's up with that?
Of course, of course. So our statistics show that about 50% of our participants in a tournament, in a national tournament, are repeat. It's their second or more tournament they've been a part of. So at least half of the people there are first timers,
Oh,
are coming for the first time. Um, and then of course, we've got most of the guys are at every national tournament. I've been to more than I have, right? But so absolutely, it's part of the progression. Okay, what we do is we expect a boxer to box in their LBC when they first sign up. That's the way it should go. A lot of times I'll get a call, hey, how do I get started? I want to be a boxer. The first step is to find a coach. Find a coach that has your back, one that you can trust, that will guide you, that has experience in this realm. So part of that progression is obviously learning to train, learning conditioning, learning your punches before you ever spar. And then after you've started sparring adequately, then to take your first match. Most coaches I know will say that that process is 6 months to a year before they're ready to compete, depending on their background, their age, etc. So we definitely expect boxers to compete locally in their LBC, and then progress out of state, maybe go to regional tournaments or adjacent LBCs such as the Sugarbird, compete in the Silver Gloves, and to advance. As they find success in those realms, then yes, come to nationals. Nationals, we do put a minimum bout requirement, and we put a minimum winning percentage requirement. And these aren't designed to keep people away by any means. They're designed in order to temper our load and not have 1,000 boxers. Because believe me, we could have a 2,000 boxer tournament, but we don't have the resources to do that. So we put those limits on there, not to make it elitist, but to try to keep it manageable. And what we saw in Lubbock was there's no mismatches. Every bout is super
great.
competitive,
It was
and
great.
that's what we want.
That's right. And okay, so the way that the bouts are put together, you all were using new software. There was like a new matchmaking type of system going on. So can you touch on that just a little bit so people can understand how the bouts are made?
Yeah, so that's evolving. We did do the draw a little bit different in this national championship in Lubbock. We tried to utilize the electronic scoring system made by Swiss Timing. A lot of LBC officials who come and they see this, they really enjoy the benefits of it and want to use it in their LBCs. So we bring a lot of officials up to clerk to learn the system, learn the software, so that we can utilize it in our regional tournaments. We used it last year in the National Golden Gloves, at the Texas Women's Championships, and a few other tournaments we took to, and it'll be even more this year. So, tournament management or tournament bracketing and administration has evolved over the years. Previous to 2015, most tournaments other than the ringside championships, were mostly smaller than about 350 boxers. And those require different resources than an 800 or 1,000 boxer tournament, which needed more personnel and a lot more automation. So over the years, we've developed that system using a combination of Tournament Builder software, All Pro Tournament Builder, Excel, and other tools, all the way to Match Tracker. But what we tried in this last tournament was to utilize the electronic scoring system, so that way the bout sheets could be built quicker. And they look a little bit different, of course. The draw looked a little bit different, had a little animation up there, but the system is designed for just an elite tournament and 2 rings. So we were trying to adapt it. And so we're still learning. It was a bit of an experiment. We've been feeding back, and hopefully we get some software upgrades and more practice, we'll get better at that. So this will be a slow evolutionary process, just like it's been for years. So that's kind of what we saw happen there in Lubbock. I know the bout sheets looked a little different for you, and the draw and everything. But the administrators, they put in a lot of hard work, and you need a team of them. Scott Dexter is a superhero, and the job that everybody on the staff, Bill Wells, Brooke Bauer, Dinah Leon, and everybody does, is Jennifer Henderson in Lubbock, was amazing. And the hours they put in, they're there by 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock every morning, and there till midnight every night, and making sure all the pass books are ready for the weigh-in and the bout sheets are ready. They're the heroes behind the scenes. But last tournament, using that new system, we were able to have early nights and be done early and things like that. Everybody knows nightmares of the past, the pass books, and up till 4 a.m. trying to make bout sheets. that doesn't make a good experience for coaches and boxers. They need to know when they're eating well ahead of time so they can do weight management, so they can be ready. They're not wasting energy on getting up in the morning to not box and things like that. So it's part of our process. It's part of our making sure that this is the best platform for them to compete upon. Just like we put a lot of effort into running a smooth weigh-in. We weigh in 450 boxers every day during a national tournament. And again, we remember times in the past when that was a slow process and it might take a long time and you barely have a gap until the first bout. Well, now I'm really proud that, we're out of there by 8 o'clock, 8:30. Most of the officials are in the morning and able to get more rest and get hydrated and get their breakfast and have energy to do 40, 50 bouts that day.
Yeah, I can attest
So,
to that, and
so yeah, it's a Herculean effort.
that's right. And I mean, but it's still the effort that you all are putting in is definitely showing. Just even in,
Thank you.
from 2021 to 2022, with my involvement, I've seen an improvement on time and efficiency. So it's really, really amazing just to see how much you all put into thinking about the years that go forward and as we, propel throughout time. But
Where you
now
want to go?
I want to go to, since we're talking about, basically it's almost like USA Boxing is constantly reforming and trying to be better and trying to be innovative.
Yeah.
But there's this larger entity that is involved with Olympic boxing as a whole. That is the International Boxing Association, formerly known as the AIBA, and they're under the International Olympic Committee, that is the IOC. So if you can help people kind of understand that tier, that is the IOC, the IBA, and then we can really get into what's happening with Olympic boxing beyond USA boxing.
Yeah. So first of all, let me preface that with saying I like to take a high level approach in all matters. There's a lot of problems in boxing have existed for a long time. And if we try to own in on and fix a problem, then we just fix a problem. We don't fix the problem. And I like to step back and not worry about that situation immediately, even though that is a very important situation to the people involved. But say, how did we get here? What happened? What processes created this? What process can we put in place so this doesn't continuously happen? So we can make an overall improvement gradually over time. So that's kind of the way I'll kind of address a lot of this topic, because a lot of what boxers and coaches are reading in the media is very pinpoint, microscopic level.
And let me say real quick that what we are talking about specifically is the potential ending of Olympic boxing as we know it. So it's slated still on the 2024 Olympics, but the 2028 Olympics that's supposed to occur in LA. As of right now, Olympic boxing is not on that primary list to be included in sports. So
and to talk about this, we need to talk about Tokyo as well. And the fact that IBA, or at the time AIBA, wasn't involved in running that tournament, because it's part of this picture. So Olympic boxing is extremely important. Let's not lose sight of that. It provides incentive every night in every gym. That those Olympic posters on the wall, past Olympians, every 4 years when young boxers get to watch the Olympics and see Tiger Johnson, Duke Reagan, Keyshawn Davis in there, Richard Torres winning medals, O'Shea Jones winning medals. That provides incentive for them moving forward. It's an important piece of this puzzle, and it's essential to the health of amateur boxing in the United States, into USA boxing. So this is a huge matter, like you said. We're very lucky to have an executive director, Mike McAtee, who came on in 2016 and immediately started tackling the burdensome problems that USA boxing had, things that previous regimes either created or didn't address, or just swept under the rug, or just said, hey, that's the way it is. It's the way it always will be. And McAtee is not afraid to tackle these big matters. And that's a whole nother podcast interview that we can talk about. But in this case, I'm very confident because Mike McAtee is leading the effort to save boxing in the Olympics, and we all need to support him in this endeavor. So, in order to address this, let's go all the way back. Roy Jones, Seoul. I mean, I'm 50 years old, so I remember that vividly in 1988, watching Roy Jones get the silver medal and then be given the Outstanding Boxer Award, going, WTF, what just happened here?
Mm-hmm.
And when I first got involved in boxing, I talked to some of my mentors, Kenny Weldons and Willie Savannahs and Ronnie Shields in Houston, and said, how did that happen? What happened? And it was explained to me that in the 80s there was a movement that within international boxing to make it more communist, to make it more fair, to spread out the medals. Only a few countries were winning medals at the time, and they wanted to have more inclusion, more of a world sport. And there was infiltration of the international governing body. There was rule changes, and there was influence over RJs. This isn't my opinion. This has been documented. This was in the McLaurin report recently, not all the way back to Seoul, but recently, of corruption within the RJ pool. And what caused this corruption? It wasn't what we're thinking. It wasn't bribes. It wasn't, hey, here's $100,000 for a gold medal. No doubt some of that did occur, but no, it was RJs making decisions based on what they thought the people above them wanted in order to feed this agenda. And so this came with a whole bunch of terrible, very well publicized decisions, from Floyd Mayweather, Evander Holyfield, all the way through the Michael Conlan incident, and so many more names that no one even remembers or talks about. Boxers who got screwed over, and how did it impact them in their lives, their dreams. Go through, win a national championship, win an Olympic trials, go there and lose in a preliminary on a bad decision because of corruption inherent in the system. So this, again, I'm not giving you my opinion. This has been documented. This has been put in reports. This has been accepted. The entire RJ pool that worked in Rio, gone, not allowed to work anymore. Why? Because they were wrong. They were not watching red and blue. They were not making decisions based on the best boxer. So this process is long evolution to today.
Okay.
It finally culminated after Rio and after these reports. And then the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, pulled it and said, IBA, you are not doing, AIBA at the time, you are not doing these things that are required. Lack of good governance, corruption in funding, and accountability. If you remember, APB and WSB was in that time frame as well. And they said, you seem more concerned with professional boxing than with Olympic boxing. And so there was a series of things, including RJ reform and challenges, that the IOC said, hey, these are your markers. These are things you have to do. And they weren't met. So now this brings us to where we're at today, where the IOC has continuously put out, we're not pleased. You're not doing a good job. You need to reform, to the AIBA and now IBA. And IBA has gone through a series of controversial leaders, and they've had agendas, and they've been doing some of their own projects and priorities, and got away from those serving those reform issues that the IOC had required. And so that brought us to the Tokyo Olympics, where IOC told AIBA, you haven't met your markers. You're not reforming. We are not going to allow you to be part of the Olympic movement. This is important for a number of reasons. It ensured that a new system was put in place and you get fair decisions. In Tokyo, there was a third-party group that vetted all the officials, that watched the officials, that made sure that they were accurate decisions. A better system was put in place for evaluation of the officials. And we do some of that at our national tournaments as well. So we can go on a tangent and talk about that. So the IOC ran the Olympics in Tokyo. IBA didn't have anything to do with it.
I believe that the leader of the Gymnastics Federation was
Watanabe. Yeah. So it was a task force that he led, but he got smart boxing people, people we know, people that were part of running international events, came together and ran that under the IOC leadership or governance. What that does is most international governing bodies, such as IBA, rely on Olympic funding. Their major source of funding comes in every 4 years outside of sponsorship agreements. So IBA didn't receive any of that funding from Tokyo. That funding is now available for IOC to then now again run the Olympics in Paris was the plan. So giving IBA a series of markers that they need to meet. They're not met. You still don't get to run the Olympics is where we're at.
So talking about where we're at, from what I've read out there, Washington Post, NBC Sports, so the leader of the IBA is Umar Kremlin. The IOC has been telling these people, hey, IBA, you need to have an election. You need to get new leadership. And the IBA has still pushed back. There's still been no election. Umar Kremlin is still at the top. The opponent, Boris van der Vorst, who's in the Netherlands, current IBA leader is in Russia. Netherlands leader is banned from running against this man. So I'm trying to see what's changing, because it seems like the IBA is still pushing back and still saying, hey, like, you have no right to come in here and run what we've got going on. So I don't understand.
Boxing is an interesting sport, right? It doesn't work like other walks of life, kind of like in pro boxing in the United States. The state commissions have the ultimate authority in their state. They don't report to the ABC, Association Boxing Commissions. They don't report to the Department of Justice. Eventually, they report to the U.S. Congress, but there's no oversight. So they're kind of unfettered. They can do what they want. And this is another example of that, where the IOC has authority over the international federations, but not really. The international federations created the IOC. And International Amateur Boxing was one of the original signers of that charter. We're one of the original Olympic sports all the way back to 1908. And so who's the boss here? So that's what you just described. It was a struggle between the two entities. Hey, you must do this. You get in line. Hey, you're not our boss, and we're going to do what we want. So then what authority do they have over them? So that's the authority they had is the Olympics participation. That's what they used in Tokyo. Now in Tokyo, they did make some bylaw or rule change reforms that gave IOC even increased authority over international federation. And that's what we're witnessing now is a lot of this, a lot of what you're seeing in public, a lot of this jockeying of, hey, we're doing a good job. Hey, no, you're still not doing a good job. You're getting this back and forth. And that incident you described about the election culminated in them having to go to the Court of Arbitration Sport in Switzerland to have a ruling on it, in which they came together and said, hey, you're both wrong. You both did something bad here. And why didn't you just run an election like you were asked to do? And so then they got back together and said, hey, we're not going to have an election. We're going to have a vote to have an election. And they voted to not have an election, was what you just described. So again, then they could have just had a vote and had Umar win. Instead, they're thumbing their nose at the IOC, at the boss, saying we're not going to conform, we're not going to do. And there's many other examples of that besides the election that have pissed the IOC off. So that's where we're at. The IOC is now kind of put themselves in a position to exercise authority and governance of Olympic boxing ahead of IBA. So what you're seeing in that Washington Post report and other reports that people are getting a little bit has captured attention is that they said, hey, look, you're clearly not reforming. You're clearly not going to be able to take over. It's not just Tokyo. It's going to continue. In Los Angeles, we're not even going to entertain it. So in Los Angeles, they decided to not even put it on the schedule,
right?
Because of this situation. Because let's be frank, the IOC is not in the business of running boxing tournaments, and for them, that's another burden. They got to run the Olympics, and now we got to run a boxing tournament on top of that. No, we don't want to do this. This is y'all's job. And if you continue to, it was a stopgap. It was a solution. It's not an ultimate new direction. So then they're pissed off. Why wouldn't they say, hey, you know what? Maybe in Paris we don't even want to do this. You guys have effed this up so badly that now you're in danger of being not even in Paris. So that's what captured the attention
for everybody. Just so you know,
this is what's in the media. This is what I get daily calls about. But let's be frank about this. This is posturing. This is getting the IOC in a position to exercise authority and take away the governance from IBA ultimately.
Wow. But that still doesn't mean, though, that Olympic boxing can't go on without the IBA.
You know what would happen if IBA didn't exist tomorrow? You know what would happen if IOC didn't exist tomorrow? You know what would happen if USA Boxing was gone? Guess what would happen tonight? Coach would unlock the doors. Kids would come and train. They would learn how to box. And eventually they'll fight somewhere. It won't be under regular USA Boxing. It might be in the park, but there will be boxing. And this is what's important for leaders of all these organizations to realize. This is what I understand. This is what Mike McAtee understands. Is boxing is bigger than us. We're just the caretaker of boxing. We're just driving the ship at this time. We didn't create boxing. Umar said something really telling. He said, Olympic boxing or amateur boxing goes as AIBA goes. No, bullshit. No, we will box. Coaches are where the boxers, where the knowledge is. They're the harbors of this. We just create outlets. We just create opportunities.
Yeah.
So it's very important to realize that it isn't the organization that's important. It's the health of the grassroots that's important. It's
that's a
and
good
not having the Olympics is important to that, because now a kid's going to watch a different sport on once every 4 years and decide, hey, that's the direction I'm going to go in. Or they're not going to stay in the gym if there's not opportunities to compete on the weekends and the incentive to definitely make it to the Olympics.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's right. It is bigger than boxing. I mean, that gives me a little bit of hope. You know, boxing has been said to exist as early as 1500 BC on carvings in Crete, Greece. You know, there's been, it seems like a lot of ups and downs. Boxing has been it's just that it's sad to think about, because it's been in continuance since 1920 Olympic boxing, you know, first introduced in 1904. So to think about something like this ending or potentially ending is a scary thing. But
It's not going to end. Don't think that way. No, and we have to have faith in our leaders. We have to have faith in this new organization. We have to have faith in Mike McAtee. We will create opportunities for boxing. And if there isn't Olympic boxing, something will replace it. If there isn't a fight, a sanctioned bout on Saturday, something will replace it. The health of the sport is what's important. It's the what's going on in the gyms that's important. Coaches and boxers need to keep working hard. There will be an outlet. We will not be removed from Olympics. If there's a hiccup and we're out of the Olympics for a cycle, we'll work to get it back. I'm very confident in the work that's going on behind the scenes, that we will remain an Olympic sport.
Well, thank you for the huge woosah at the end there. I appreciate that very much. Thank you for the insight and what's going on with USA Boxing. And I guess, did we miss anything? Do you think that, you know, we need to hear something else important? I really feel like we've got a good recap of what's to come this year with USA Boxing. We understand a little bit about what's going on with the IOC and the IBA. So yeah.
No, I'm excited about the year. I'm excited about the direction we're going in. You know, we hosted our first international in a while last year in Colorado, which is kind of setting us up to host more international events. We're bringing online the women's national championships this year in Toledo. So I'm excited about the new direction, new opportunities, creating new events. Of course, the Summer Festival was a new event not long ago, which included Masters Division, and we're working on creating adaptive boxing opportunities. And so this is what excites me. Is these new opportunities and doing new things. I'm hiring a new coordinator to come on board in January, February of this year to help me with supporting regional events. I want to take what we've done at nationals and do that. Help the Golden Gloves, help the Silver Gloves become better events and better run and smoother. Help the Gene Lewises and the Buffalo Bills and all these major tournaments be even better than they are, and utilize our resources. Because again, if I can help increase their good decisions and opportunities, and they can get 20 or 30 more bouts in there than they had, then they'll be better. And it's creating more opportunities. So I'm just excited about the direction of the future. I'm excited about our office. We built up the high performance department. They're doing great things. We all believe we have the best coach in the world in Billy Walsh. The new crop just came in. The winners from Lubbock just came in to high performance selection camp. So that's a great collection of talent. You know, if you took a snapshot of them right now and projected in 5 years, you're going to have world champions in that group. You're going to have so many well-known personalities and pros. You got world gold medalists in that group. So it's amazing right now. I work alongside Lynette Smith in the office, probably, the pillar of USA Boxing, our longest tenured member, so much institutional knowledge. I spend half my day going over her and bouncing ideas and asking her questions. So no, I'm just excited about the direction. I'm excited about the reforms we've made. I'm excited about that we do things right. Always make the right decision. Don't perpetuate problems we've had in the past. So no, I'm blessed. Honestly, I'm blessed. I get to meet people like you, Ryan, and add on to our national tournaments and just make our sport even better. And most of all, I get to witness the great deeds that coaches do, and then on top of that, we get to witness greatness in the ring and great performances from boxers like Thomas and Kiki. Just really showing out and getting better every single time. So, I'm privileged to be in this position. I by no means think that I'm doing anything here other than just kind of holding on to the steering wheel and guiding this ship. But it's a privilege for me to be in this position. I love it.
Definitely. Likewise. I mean, it's a huge honor to be able to say these people's names as a ring announcer. So I'm
Yeah.
feeling blessed too to be a part of the organization and to just grow with you all and continue the journey that is boxing in the United States and beyond. So, Mike Campbell, thank you so much for talking to me today. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Casually Hardcore. Once again, I'm your host, Ryan Nico, and we'll post more links so that you can just keep up with what's going on with USA Boxing, keep up what's going on with the IBA. And yeah, thanks again for watching, and see you next time.